Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about finding the slope of a line. Now slope of a line we can find on a graph, we can find using ordered pairs, we can find using equations, or even just from verbal descriptions. Okay, so we'll start with the graph because that's probably the one you're most familiar with. If you remember, finding slope on a graph means that we're going to do rise over run. Okay, so with rise over run, what we need to do first is find two pretty points. And a pretty point is any point that crosses over a lattice point for the grid lines. So we've got a pretty point here. There's another one here. And I'll just go ahead and mark all the pretty points I can find here. And it doesn't matter which two pretty points we use. We're just going to use two of them to find our slope. Okay. So we could pick two that are close together. We could pick two that are far apart. It doesn't matter. I'm going to pick 0, 1 and 6, negative 3. Okay. So for 0, 1 and 6, negative 3, if I look from left to right and start with my left point at 0, 1 and go to my right point at 6, negative 3. From 1 to negative 3, I'm going to have a rise of negative 4. Okay. You say, but rise means positive, right? Well, not always. When we're talking about slope, rise just means the difference in the y values of our points. So from left to right, if we're actually going down, then that's going to be a negative rise, like this case. So we have a negative rise, okay, negative 4. And then we have a run of 6. So when we do our slope and we actually put the numbers in the fraction form, we'll have negative 4 over 6. And then we want to simplify this. Now we could simplify this just by dividing by negative 2, okay, or excuse me, just dividing by 2. If we divide by 2, since that's the greatest common factor of 4 and 6, we're going to get negative 2 over 3. Okay. I know some of you are going, but I hate fractions. I'm not good at simplifying fractions. That's okay. If you're not good at simplifying fractions, go to your calculator. Okay, now it's already here, negative 4 over 6. But to do this, all we did was alpha, y equals, and the first one. We just hit enter. And it gave us that fraction setup. Then we could do our negative 4 and then go down to put our 6 in and then go to the right. And once we hit enter, it gives us our negative 2/3 fraction. Okay. All right. So now that we've done that, okay, I want you to take a look over here at this triangle that we've created. Okay, this is a right triangle. Okay, so if you're given a right triangle and you're asked to find what's the slope of the hypotenuse, okay, remember this part over here is the hypotenuse. All we're going to do is take the leg going up, that's going to be our rise, and put it over the leg going across. That's going to be our run. Okay. So depending on how our triangle is situated, could change our slope, whether we're, depending on which leg is our rise and which leg is our run. Okay. All right. Let's look over here at the ordered pairs. Now we see ordered pairs in tables, and we see ordered pairs just as our coordinate ordered pairs, where we've got an x and a y value in parentheses. So we can find slope using either option. Okay. If we're looking at a table, we're looking at the change in x or in change in y over the change in x. Now this actually has a little shorthand. Instead of writing out change in y over change in x all the time, You could do this little triangle symbol. So the change in x in y over the change in x. Okay. So if I look at my 2 points here, any 2 points, it doesn't matter which. Let's go here. From 0 to 3, I go up 3, but from 1 to -1, I'm going to go down 2. Now when I put that into my format of change in y over change in x, I get -2 over 3. Okay? So this is going to be my slope from the table. And this was my slope from the graph. Okay? Now, in 8th grade, you learned the slope formula. And the slope formula was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? So just to make it easy for ourselves, we want to label our points. So we're going to label this one as x1, y1, x2, y2. So then when we go to put it in our formula, we know which ones we're putting in where. Okay? So I'm going to start with -1. And slope, when you look at it in the formula, it will tell you that m equals y2 minus y1. It's because m is the variable that we use to represent slope. Okay? So we're going to put this into our m equals format. y2 is -1 minus y1 is 5. And then x2 is 3 minus, and x1 is -6. Now look down here at the x's. This negative, this minus the negative part here, when we have them close together like that, they become a plus. So instead of 3 minus -6, it'll actually be 3 plus 6. Okay? I have -1 minus 5. That's going to give me a -6. 3 plus 6 will give me a 9. And when I simplify that, if I take my handy dandy calculator over here and I simplify that, we're still going to get -2 over 3. So I'm going to put my -6 on top. I'm going to put my 9 on bottom. And it simplifies out to -2 over 3. Okay. So these are probably the forms you're most used to seeing when we talk about finding slope. For those of you that maybe might get confused if there's too many negatives going on in the slope formula, you can always just put those points into a table. Okay? If you notice, the -6, 5 is right here. Here's our x1, y1. And the 3, -1 is over here on this point, so x2, y2. Okay? So you can just put them in a table if that makes it easier for you to see the difference. And then you're not having to worry about, did you put all the negatives you were supposed to? Okay? All right, so let's talk about equations. Now, there's 3 different forms of a linear equation, and all 3 of these forms and your slope formula can be found on your reference chart. Okay? So in your reference chart for your STAR EOC for Algebra 1, you'll see that the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Okay? So this m right here is going to be our slope. Okay? So let's look at an example. Like if we have y equals 2/3, hold on. We have y equals -2/3. 2/3 x plus 1. Okay? Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 1. My slope, I might change color on my highlighter here. My slope is going to be right here at 2/3. Okay? Now, point slope form. This is a new form that you may not have seen before. With point slope form, it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? This is a formula that uses your slope and any point that is on your line. Okay? So for example, if I have y minus 3 equals negative 2/3 times x plus 3. Okay. Now, this would actually be minus a negative 3. Okay. But that's okay. We'll learn more about point slope formula in just a few days. But for right now, we just need to be able to find our slope. And our slope is right here at negative 2/3. Okay. So with slope intercept form and point slope form, the word slope is right there in the name. It is really easy to find your slope in those two formats. Now, if we're talking about standard form, that gets a little trickier. Okay? So with standard form is set up as ax plus by equals c. Okay? And our slope isn't just automatically visible here. In fact, to find our slope from a slope intercept form or from standard form, we actually have to change it to slope intercept form. Okay? Which we've done before. When we talked about literal equations and how to solve literal equations for y, we talked about using the standard form. Okay? So for those of you in my class, this is something you should already know because we've done this year. The quick version of it, and I'll show you an example here in a moment. The quick version is that it's going to be the negative a, the opposite of the a value, over the b value. Okay? Plus your c over b. Okay? So don't worry too much about this. I'm about to show you an example. Okay? In standard form, we have 2x plus 3y equals 3. Now, to get to our slope intercept form so that we can find our slope, we're going to subtract this 2x across. Okay, we're just going to move it to the other side, and that changes its sign. So we're going to have 3y equals negative 2x plus 3. And then we're going to divide everything by 3. Okay, so when we divide everything by 3, we end up back at y equals negative 2/3 x plus 1. And once again, here is that 2/3, and that is our slope. Okay? So as I said, we have done standard form to slope intercept form. So we've solved for y. We can find our slope once we solve for y. And the last way that we look at slope is in a verbal description, because a lot of times we're looking at real world situations or some kind of example that is just using a word problem. Okay? So, there's different things that mean we have a slope. Think about 30 miles per hour. Okay? So if you see the word per, that's your slope. This would be 30 miles per hour. Okay? And this 30 over 1 is the slope. Once we have those units in there, that's our rate of change. Okay, so again, slope and rate of change are the same thing. It's just rate of change uses some kind of units on it. Okay, 5 points for every correct answer. Every is another one of those keywords that we look for to tell us it's our slope. And that would be, if we looked at it in the fraction format, 5 points for every one correct answer. Okay, so that 5 over 1 is our slope. If we did $10 for each ticket sold, okay, each is our keyword that we're looking at. So $10 for every one ticket. Okay, that 10 over 1 is our slope. And then $2 and apple. Okay, so just to be grammatically correct, if the object starts with the consonant, it's going to be a. Okay, so either a or an could be an indicator that we are looking at our slope in a verbal description. So again, this one would be $2 for every one apple. Okay, so there's our slope. Okay, so those are your notes today for finding the slope of a line. Okay, and remember, your slope could be positive if it's going up or down. It could be negative from left to right if it's going down. You could have a zero slope. Okay, a zero slope is that horizontal line. Okay, but you could also have an undefined slope. Okay, that undefined slope is if it is vertical and it's going straight up and down. Okay, so you can have an undefined slope, you could have a zero slope, positive if it's going up from left to right, or negative if it's going down from left to right. All right, so guys, I will see you later and have a good day.